It was June 17, 1994. Americans paused whatever they were doing, whether in shopping malls, bars, or living rooms, to watch a surreal slow-speed car chase. Inside the white Ford Bronco was a man once idolized, O.J Simpson. A former NFL superstar, a charismatic broadcaster, a cultural icon. And now, a murder suspect. The chase wasn't just the prelude to a trial, it was the beginning of a national spectacle that would expose the raw underbelly of American society: race, fame, power, and justice. This wasn't just a trial. It was a reckoning. On June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were found brutally murdered outside her Brentwood home. The crime scene was grotesque. Nicole's throat had been slashed with such force that she was nearly decapitated. Ron Goldman had been stabbed over 20 times. Within days, suspicion turned to O.J Simpson, Nicole's ex-husband, who had a documented history of domestic violence. Blood evidence began to pile up on O.J.'s Bronco, inside his home, even on a bloody glove found at the crime scene. But this was no ordinary suspect. O.J. wasn't just any man, he was the juice. At the courtroom in the blue corner stood the prosecution, led by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden. They had DNA evidence, motive, and opportunity. In the red corner stood what the media dubbed the Dream Team: Johnny Cochran, Robert Shapiro, Lee Bailey, Alan Dershowitz, and a then little-known Robert Kardashian. Cochran, charismatic and sharp, didn't just defend O.J., he rewrote the narrative. It wasn't about guilt or innocence. It was about whether a black man could get a fair trial in America. This wasn't just about O.J. Simpson. This was about LAPD's history of brutality, about Rodney King, about a justice system black Americans had long distrusted. Cochran leaned into this. He painted the lead detective, Mark Fuhrman, as a racist who planted evidence. When tapes surfaced of Fuhrman using racial slurs and boasting about police brutality, the case tilted. In the eyes of many, this wasn't just a murder trial anymore. It was a symbol. A black man with money fighting back against a corrupt system. And the prosecution? They underestimated that power. Perhaps the most infamous moment of the trial was when O.J. was asked to try on the bloody glove found at the crime scene. He struggled. It looked tight. The jury watched. Then came Cochran's immortal words: "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." It was a masterclass in courtroom theater. Simple, memorable, effective. The prosecution's case relied heavily on DNA, blood drops, hair fibers, shoe prints. It was a scientific mountain of evidence. But in 1995, DNA was still a mystery to most Americans. The defense made it sound uncertain, complicated, corruptible. The LAPD's mishandling of evidence, contaminated samples, questionable chain of custody, didn't help. The jury didn't need proof of innocence, just enough doubt. And doubt? There was plenty. On October 3, 1995, after just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict: not guilty. Gasps, cries, cheers, and outrage. America exploded. For many in the black community, it was justice finally served. A win against a system that had stolen too many lives. For others, it was a travesty. A celebrity walking free because he was rich, famous, and cunning. Justice had spoken, but it did not bring peace. The trial left deep scars. Marcia Clark faced public scrutiny over her appearance and strategy. Christopher Darden, who believed deeply in the case, said the outcome shattered his faith in the system. The victims' families, especially Fred Goldman, Ron's father, would never stop seeking justice. In 1997, a civil jury found O.J. liable for the wrongful deaths of Nicole and Ron. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages. In 2008, O.J. was convicted of armed robbery in an unrelated case. For many, it felt like delayed justice. But the truth? The shadow of the 1995 trial would never lift. Now let's look at the analysis and why this trial still matters. The O.J. Simpson trial wasn't just about two murdered people. It was about what happens when celebrity, race, wealth, and justice collide. 1. Race and bias. It revealed how deeply race colors perception in America. Two people could watch the same trial and see two completely different truths. 2. The power of narrative. Facts don't win trials. Stories do. The defense turned a murder case into a civil rights drama. The prosecution didn't stand a chance against that. 3. The rise of media trials. This was reality TV before reality TV. 24-hour news coverage. Courtroom fashion analysis. Public obsession. It changed how trials are viewed forever. 4. Trust in institutions. For many, the trial confirmed what they already feared. The justice system could be manipulated by race, by fame, by money. The haunting question that still lingers nearly 30 years later: who really killed Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman? Officially, no one else has ever been charged for their murders. O.J. Simpson was acquitted in criminal court, which means the jury found there was reasonable doubt about his guilt. But in 1997, a civil court found him liable for their deaths, which has a much lower burden of proof than a criminal trial. That ruling didn't carry jail time, but it was a legal way of saying, we believe he did it. So, let's break it down. The case against O.J. His DNA was found at the crime scene. The victim's blood was found in his car and home. He had a history of domestic violence toward Nicole. He had no solid alibi. He fled during his arrest, triggering the infamous Bronco chase. But the defense argued that the LAPD mishandled or planted evidence. Key detectives like Mark Furman were exposed as racist and untrustworthy. The glove didn't fit, literally and symbolically. Was it someone else? There have been alternative theories, but none have been proven. Jason Simpson, O.J.'s son, has been floated as a suspect in fringe theories, but there's no hard evidence. Some claim it could have been a drug-related hit, targeting someone else or both victims. Others suggest O.J. may have had help or wasn't alone that night. None of these theories have been substantiated enough to reopen the case. Bottom line: in the eyes of criminal law, O.J. is not guilty. In the eyes of a civil jury, he's responsible. In the court of public opinion, the nation is still divided. It really is sad, heartbreaking actually. Two people were brutally murdered, and despite the world watching every moment of the investigation and trial, the truth was never fully and unquestionably uncovered. Whether O.J. did it or not, the fact remains: Nicole and Ron never got true justice, and their families never got real closure. It's one of those cases that reminds us how flawed the system can be, how evidence can be mishandled, how public opinion can sway a jury, and how fame can cast a long shadow over truth. Sometimes, the most painful part of a high-profile case isn't the crime itself. It's the silence that follows when no one is held accountable. What do you think? Was O.J. Simpson guilty? Or was this the rare case where the justice system finally worked for a black man who could afford a strong defense? Was this a story of a broken system? Or was it a reflection of the system functioning exactly as designed? Did justice win? Or did it wear a mask? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.